Hello everyone. A lot of things have happened this week and I don't even know where to start. But first of all, let me introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm melodramatic Melissa. I'm a 50th medical student studying medicine in Poland, and I am also Nigerian Irish. So recently, the UK has come up with a prioritization law which prioritizes UK graduates over everyone else, including UK IMGs. Before I get into what this prioritization bill actually means, I'm gonna walk you through whether or not you should actually come here and study medicine in Poland to become a doctor or a dentist. Okay, so should you come here to study medicine or dentistry? Yes and no, depending on your situation, depending on your geographical luck, and depending on what pathway you want to use to go back to your country if you choose to do so. Dentists, you're fine. You don't have to worry. Medicine people, however, please be aware. So normally I encourage everyone to come over and study medicine in Poland because it is an EU recognized degree. This still stands. However, you might have some problems with finding an internship spot right after university. Let me explain. So if you are Irish or if you are EU, you can go back to your countries because your country will prioritize you for an internship post. However, if you are non-EU, if you are UK, if you come from any other country, you might have to learn a different language to stay and work as a doctor in Europe. This is the pathway of a medical student to becoming a doctor. First, you start as a medical student, you graduate, and then you need internship, which is your first training as a medical student. So medical students, then internship. After your internship position, also called foundation program in Malta and the UK, you are looking at specialization. So if you get a specialized spot, if you get a specialization training post, you graduate on to being an SHO, and then from this you become a registrar, and then finally you become a consultant. This whole entire step takes a long time. However, the problem we are facing right now for non-EU citizens is that initial first step to get a job as an intern if you choose not to learn a European language. Okay, so the pathway most medical students in Poland take is they either have to decide if they want to work as a doctor in English or work as a doctor in a different language. So when people come here and they choose to work in a different language, they normally study Polish or German or Norwegian in order to work in these certain countries, because again it is an EU recognized degree, so you don't really have to worry about like your documents not matching that criteria. However, for people who want to work as a doctor in English, they normally consider going to these three countries first before deciding on where they want to specialize in. Okay, so these three countries are Ireland, UK, and Malta, because they carry out their foundation program / internship in English. By the way, I forgot to say that the fourth country you can apply to directly is basically the US. But of course, you have to make sure that your country is not banned and you can easily get a visa to go work in the US. Polish schools actually have a system where you can be able to prepare for the USMLE alongside your studies. So various people have already completed and passed their step 1 exams from my school, and I think if you're a UK citizen or if you're a non-EU citizen, then this can also be a good option for you in terms of working as a doctor in English. But I won't be talking about this pathway today. I'll be talking about like staying in Europe and what's actually happening. So if you don't plan on going back home as a UK citizen, then this is also something that you can do from here on out. Now, Ireland always prioritizes Irish citizens. So if you are an Irish citizen who has studied outside of Ireland, then you are sure to get an internship post in Ireland right after graduation, especially if you come from Poland. However, if you are not Irish, you will struggle to get an internship position in Ireland because Ireland only has a certain amount of spots. It is a small country after all, and I think the percentage of people who normally get into Ireland who aren't Irish for that internship position, I'm not talking about SHO now, for that initial internship position is about less than 20%. So it is very small. So what most people do who aren't Irish, who aren't EU, who want to practice in English is to either apply for the UK or apply for Malta. Now, with Malta, you have to write an exam or something like this. You are able to get your foundation training, but there might not be any progression in that country if you don't learn like Maltese. But this is also subject to change because I know they're opening up a few spots in English for specialization. However, the most popular However, the most popular pathway that people normally work in for foundation training in English is the UK because they normally have a lot of spots. So most of the people who want to work in English have UK as their number one, maybe Ireland as second choice, and Malta as third, depending on how you look at it. Irish citizens, EU citizens are prioritized for Irish internship, but everyone else is just like a hit and miss. Okay, so there have been doctor shortages in the UK, and it's a huge problem. Okay, because people are not able to see GPs, people are not able to get to emergency services and be taken care of on time. So the UK is struggling, the NHS is crumbling, and they desperately need doctors. However, they are not making new specialty training spots, they are not opening new foundation schools, they are not opening more foundation training programs. Remember, I told you medical student internship, which is also called like foundation program, then specialization before you can even think of consultancy. Okay, so what the UK government have done is that they have decided to put UK grads against the IMGs because why not divide and conquer? Typical British. Instead of addressing the problem and making new specialization posts, making new training spots, making new intern posts, they have decided to make new medical schools in the UK, even though they have so many, which means that if you're making new medical schools, you're gonna have more UK medical graduates, right? But you still don't have enough spots for them. You still don't have enough specialty spots, you still don't have enough intern spots. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that there are not enough doctor jobs for the UK graduates. And this is a fundamental problem because on one hand, people are saying that if you can't provide enough jobs for the UK graduates, why are you bringing more immigrant doctors in? On the other hand, NHS does not have enough doctors. So they have decided that they are gonna try and attempt to make a tiered system where they prioritize UK grads, okay? But listen to this. IMGs, especially for the foundation training spots, I'm not talking about specialties now, especially for that initial internship post, they only make up about 5 to 15% of the total cohort who are looking for these jobs. So not a lot. What the British politicians have done is they are putting the UK graduates against the IMGs, saying, focus on them. These people are the ones taking your jobs, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So even without this 5 to 15% of IMGs, if these people were totally taken out of the loop, which they have been, but I'm getting to that, UK graduates still will be without a job after foundation program because again there are not enough specialty training posts for anyone actually. So even if you take IMGs out to reduce competition for foundation training spots, UK graduates will still be unemployed come 2 years time because its politicians have not targeted the root cause of the issue, which is from the top to the bottom. Make more consultancy spots, make more specialty spots, make more foundation spots. Instead, they have decided to alienate 5 to 15% of their potential workforce. That's what's happening right now. So they've been playing around with this bill called the UK Prioritization Bill, where they prioritize UK graduates for those foundation spots. Remember, foundation spots, I'm talking about that intern spot, that initial step, that first doctor job after medical school. And so the problem with this is that to apply for a doctor job in the UK, you must start 1 year in advance, which means people have poured in savings into this, people have spent so much money into this, people have traveled, people have studied for years. IMGs have to go through the IELTS or the OET. In Poland here, the IELTS exam is 995 zloty, the OET is 1500 zloty. The PLAB exam, which EU graduates don't actually have to do, I don't even know how much the PLAB exam is. And there's two PLABs, PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. They might have changed it to UKMLA, but there are still two PLABs. The people who are using this route are people from outside the EU who are trying to make a better life for themselves. They pour in an enormous amount of money and they pay for all of these exams. They sit this exam in hopes that they can get the same competing ground as a UK citizen. So they have already done this, okay? And this is now the year where they are supposed to receive a turnout. Same as the UK, of course. The UK grads have paid their school fees. They have dedicated an enormous amount of time into medicine. Everyone wants that initial job, okay? So because there have been such disarray in the medical community in the UK, the British Medical Association, as well as, UK politicians, have come up with a UK prioritization bill. Normally, people know that they have gotten a doctor job by the end of February. However, this was extended till March because they still had not decided if they were going to pass the UK prioritization bill. By the way, people have already dedicated 1 year into this regardless. So the UK does owe these people jobs if you're going to take money from people, if you're not going to close the pathway, if you're just going to make new laws at the finish line. Okay? Instead of giving people their jobs in February, they kind of extended it till March and said, look, March 12th is when we're gonna allocate jobs to the people who have applied, to the people who are eligible. But because the prioritization bill had not gone through yet, people were still kind of hopeful, especially IMGs, that they will probably get a job this year. Remember, they've dedicated 1 year of their lives, actually all of their lives, but 1 year of documentations, planning, trips, exams, etc. So what the UK does is to bring out and actually enact, I hope that's the right word, enact this prioritization bill on the 5th of March, few days before the 12th of March when people are supposed to get a job. And I will read it to you right now. So in the prioritization bill, which was passed on the 5th of March, it says that those with a primary medical qualification from the UK or the Republic of Ireland will be prioritized. Not only this, but those with a primary medical qualification from medical schools in Iceland, Principality of Liechtenstein, Norway, or Switzerland will also be prioritized. Notice something. These last few countries don't exactly have English as their first language, so they're less likely to come over to work as a doctor in the UK. Moreover, their doctors are paid much better than if they were to come to the UK. So yeah, those who are from the Republic of Ireland probably will stay in the Republic of Ireland because they are also prioritized over there. And again, doctors in Ireland are paid way better. But notice something. They did not prioritize EU medical graduates. They did not prioritize UK IMGs, their own actual citizens. They only prioritized the UK graduates. By UK graduates, I mean actual UK citizens and those who are not UK citizens but studied in the UK. So this is the result. The UK FPO allocated 10,810 applicants to foundation schools. 82.3% of those applicants got their first choice, meaning the majority of UK graduates got jobs on the 12th of March. However, 738 applicants from around the world, IMGs, did not get a spot. This is a fraction. This is so minuscule compared to 10,810 spots that they had been allocated jobs. So it begs the question, why didn't you just let this cohort pass first? Because 1 year ago, they were not aware that all of the dedication, all of the suffering, all of the exams just to come over here will not pay off in the end. But you took money from them for IELTS, for the OET, for the PLAB exams, traveling, expense, visas, immigration. You actively extorted money from these people because you knew that they had in their head that they were going to be on equal footing as a UK grad, and moments before they were going to get this job, before the payout will finally happen, you stole their hope from them. So 738 applicants did not get a job. Majority of people who did not get a job were from Poland and everywhere else, to be honest. Like, if you were not a UK grad this year, you did not get a job. This was honestly crushing because I've watched my seniors work so hard to get a job. Seniors that are not EU citizens. This was one of their paths to becoming a specialist wherever in the world they chose to, because after graduating from a Polish medical school, all they needed was to get some kind of training. That's all they needed, and they would have used this training to go on to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, wherever they wanted, but they needed some kind of experience. They weren't hoping to compete for specialty positions with the UK grads, because honestly, if you take them out, UK grads will still be competing with themselves for specialty positions because there are basically none. I'm sure you've heard it everywhere. UK grads usually have no job by the end of the 2-year foundation program. But instead of the UK FPO to accommodate the 738 applicants, instead of the UK FPO to acknowledge that these people were not told about the prioritization bill prior to applying 1 year ago, they have essentially left them in the dust. They didn't even attempt to make at least 400 spots, for this 738 people. They have just left them in the dust, and my heart breaks for them. I have been so fucking sad, because this is not right. This is not fair. At least Ireland has this system in place, this 4-tiered system where you know in advance what you are getting yourself into. If you are an IMG hoping to get into Ireland, you already know that you only have a 20% chance to get into Ireland. But the UK made laws at the finish line, and they have taken no responsibility for the lives that have been essentially ruined. I feel so bad because there are UK graduates here right now. I know what you're thinking. A lot of people say, then if you can't get jobs here, if you can't get jobs in Europe, but then why not just go back to your country? UK IMGs have nowhere to go because the UK is their country and the government didn't even prioritize them. This is where geographical luck comes in. None of us choose to be born where we are. None of us choose to have the privilege that we have. But those with privilege have a duty to still stand up when we see injustice. Because I was born in Ireland and not the UK, I'm in a much better place to kind of decide where I want my future to go. I honestly have already sat the IELTS exam. Do I need the IELTS? No. I was basically colonized twice, bro. So why do I need to do an English exam? Why? But I did it and I passed it, and now it was all for nothing, and they have taken my money and none of it even mattered. But this is just me. Other people have had to write so many more exams to get into the UK and are just crushed at the finish line. You don't do that. That's not right. I'm happy that the UK grads were prioritized, but I'm not happy in the way the prioritization happened. They essentially rushed it so much that they didn't consider other factors, like what would happen to their citizens who have studied outside of the UK. Ireland has this system for years and it works because we know what will happen to us. But the UK rushed to make laws without properly considering the end result. And this is it. So now, after putting the UK grads against IMGs, the IMGs are totally gone. They are totally excluded. And essentially, UK is closed as progression of their medical career. So that's why I say, if you're planning on coming to Poland as a UK citizen or as a non-EU person and you want to progress your future in English, maybe this might not be right for you. Maybe you should consider going directly to the UK or Ireland to study medicine there. But of course, it comes with cons, because paying fees for the UK and Ireland as an international student will cost you about 50,000 euros or 50,000 pounds. I'm not sure, around this figure, okay? But if you were to come to Poland, it will cost you roughly around 15,000 euros per year, which honestly is also expensive. So my advice is that if you're planning to come to a Polish medical university, I think this is a good path for those who are Irish, for those who are of the European Union or EEA. I don't know what that means, whatever. But if you are not privileged enough to have a European passport and you still want to come over here, you really should consider the possibility that you will have to learn a different language other than English. Because remember, this degree is taught in English. People have accepted this earlier. A lot of my classmates already know that they'll probably go to Germany, or they will probably stay in Poland, or they will choose Norway. But for those who don't know, for those who didn't plan about this, they probably should not come to Poland. If you're not EU, if you're not Irish, if you're UK, at the moment, this might not be the best thing for you. And of course, people will still apply to the UK, because why not? There might be a slight chance that they might get a spot. But also, this is not guaranteed anymore. And honestly, doctors are paid really well here in Poland. Like, I talked to my teachers, the interns over here, they get paid between 150 zloty to 200 zloty. The healthcare is actually really, really good. Just a few weeks ago, I was able to suture and assist in a C-section. So it's actually good to stay here, but you have to consider that you will actually need to learn Polish if you are not EU. And of course, if you're Canadian and American, you can still come here because your degree will be recognized, but you might not be able to get an internship post right after university if you want to do this in English. You will probably have to study for the steps as per usual and then go back to your country, because this is what the world has become, unfortunately. And also, to the Polish universities watching this, you keep on increasing fees, but yet you are not doing anything that I can see is helpful to the students. What do I mean by this? Currently, I'm paying around 11,000 something euros per year, but the incoming first years will be paying 15,000 euros per year. Yet no significant changes have been made to our school curriculum that warrant such increase. My message to you is that now that you've seen how bad the UK has become as a pathway to non-EU citizens, please consider improving the Polish language courses in your school. I know in my school we have basic Polish in first and second year, which is good to just kind of like survive, But now that people might actually consider staying in the country, I think it's going to become a more popular choice for people who want to come to Polish medical school. So please consider improving the Polish language course and extending it to sixth year, not just first and second year, but third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year onward, so that by the time they have finished their medical degree after 6 years, they should be essentially fluent. Because if you're gonna charge 15,000 euros, you might as well have perfect A1 to B2 course imaginable in your school. So I think this video has gone on to be way longer than I expected, but I'm so sorry to those who were affected. You don't deserve this. Like, I get it, because I'm a fifth year right now. If they had passed the bill just after, then you guys would have found jobs easily, and maybe it would have affected my year, but at least we would know a year in advance that this is what is going to happen. But the fact that they just kind of like took the carpet out of your feet is not right. And the funny thing is that even with all of this, UK doctors still would not have a specialty training spot, because their government just doesn't care enough about them to open up more opportunities. So they will end up going to Australia and become NHS immigrants. This is what they actually call UK people who go over to Australia. So it's just a sad circle of life, okay? But please do not lose hope. You will get to where you want to in the end. And for those of you who are Irish and who are EU, you're fine. You don't have to worry at all. For those of you who are not Irish, who are not EU, who are hoping to come over here to Poland, who are willing to learn a new language, you can still come over to Poland. If you need any help at all, if you need advice on coming over to study medicine in Poland, please check the link in my bio. I have a consultation. It doesn't cost a lot, and it's always better to talk to someone who is living in the moment, because I'm telling you right now, the agencies are going to take money from you and they're not going to tell you the actual reality of things, but I will. I'm going to leave you with a poem, and this is a German poem. It's called First They Came. When the Nazis came for the communists, I kept quiet. I wasn't a communist. When they came for the trade unions, I kept quiet. I wasn't a trade unionist. When they locked up the social democrats, I kept quiet. I wasn't a social democrat. When they locked up the Jews, I kept quiet. I wasn't a Jew. When they came for me, there was no one left to protest. I feel like this poem is so important in this day and age where everything is just turning to shit. Now that there are no IMGs, the UK will have to fight against themselves. They will have to fight against their government to actually improve their own working conditions. We are going to see longer lines, longer waiting lists in the NHS, and ultimately it might end up in the privatization of healthcare in the UK. Immigrants are the backbone of society. You can't dispute this. This is fact. And if you think you're better off without them, your country is not going to last. It's just the way of things. People move for a better life. No one will want to move if everything was okay in their country. Everyone deserves a chance. So like and subscribe for more, guys, and follow my journey as an Irish student in Poland. Yeah. Bye. Thank you.